Hello, everyone. This is Chala, Dincoy, CEO and founder of The Repositioning Expert. Welcome to another edition of my podcast, Naked Marketing, where guests who are big company owners come and talk about, and it's like a confessional of their most expensive and biggest marketing mistake that they've ever made. So today is my guest, Marcia Zaruba-O'Connor. Welcome, Marcia.
Thank you, Chala. Nice to be here.
Yes, it's such a wonderful thing to have another woman business owner and CEO. Tell us what you do and who you help, Marcia.
Absolutely. So we are a HR outsourcing and recruiting company based out in King of Prussia. We help basically companies with their HR and recruiting infrastructure. We help in regards to interim help. I mean, whatever it takes regarding people, we on the outside of the house, we're the outsourcers, we do it for them. So more so like small to mid-sized companies.
Yeah. So were you in HR before? Like, were you in the corporate world and this is what happened? You just decided to do it on your own?
Funny story. I was actually an auditor. I was with a big, back then, big eight accounting firm. And then I did auditing for several years and figured it wasn't really for me. I was ready to leave, asked to stay in recruiting, fell in love with recruiting and the way it worked. And I love metrics and numbers. And I ended up being in that world, understanding and loving about people make decisions. And then I worked into HR operations, executive search. And then I went into business development. And then someone said to me, you could do this even better. And I said, And so I looked into it a little further, always want to have my own business. And here we are 15 years later.
Wow. I mean, and I know that you're very involved. We talked earlier with EO. So how has that been? How long have you had that sort of association?
Oh, EO has been amazing. EO is for, as people don't know, is Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a international group of 15,000 CEOs around the world. And I'm part of the Philadelphia chapter. And EO basically just puts you with like-minded people who are also in that same world of building their business. And they all have a really common theme of loving to grow and build and basically help each other out. And there's a really great sense of integrity with all of us too. We really try to be very honest and open. And we don't really tell you how to do your job. We either give you more like suggestions and examples and, basically experience shares that we share with each other. Honestly, I've been involved since 2016 and literally I would say my company has more than quadrupled since I've been a part of EO.
And you
and just 2016.
You attribute that growth to them?
I would say majority of that, as well as using the EOS platform too, the entrepreneur operating system. We started using that as well. And then just having people around me ask me questions of what to do and to say, I want to get to the point where you go to a meeting and you're not actually looking at your phone like once. How do you get there? And you just start asking questions of people of saying just the simple things of like, hey, how does that work with taxes? Hey, how does this work, in regards to your salary? Hey, how does this work? Do you do this? Do you do that? It's just asking those basic questions that we all take for granted. And that group just really was very blunt. They'll tell you if they don't know, they'll find somebody who does know. And I think that's the best part of it all because there's so much great experience here that you definitely have to find a group of people that you're familiar with to basically just spill the beans on because you love your spouse, but they don't always understand what it means when you can't pay payroll.
No, exactly. I know. They're just, that's not their job.
No, they mean well, but they don't understand that panic attack you had at 3:00 in the morning. You're like, you okay? You're like, not really. No, but you got to get through that. So
do you know that 80%, there is a stat, it's hilarious. 80%, it's sad, but 80% of entrepreneurs lose sleep at night thinking about their business. It's 80%, like it's almost every single one. So
that's insane. I believe it, but it's insane.
I know, but hey, we do it lovingly because for 18 years I worked for corporations, right? And I was like, I'm so happy now. So happy now. So tell me about, I've been dying to ask this question and I kind of queued it up earlier, but the Great Resignation, like what has it done for you? Has it made your life easier, harder? Is it an opportunity for you, as someone who helps companies with that?
It's a twofold story there, right? It was a horrible time, but COVID was a horrible time period, right? A lot of people had a lot of, death and all bad stuff. But the weird thing about that is before COVID, everybody needed to see an HR person on site. After COVID, they don't care if you come on site.
Isn't it funny?
And so we are now doing a lot more business around the country, and basically having maybe a consultant in Philadelphia working on a project in Texas, and they don't have to go there in person every day. So to be honest with you, I hate to say this, but COVID made HR cool. And people all of a sudden now, I have to have HR. I mean, there's all these mandates, there's all this other stuff. What do I do? So they've really done a great job of making things cool. And and ironically enough, it's where we're going, and like hybrid's here to stay. I would say we're more remote than hybrid's here to stay. The Great Resignation. I was thinking for the longest time, talking to a lot of my colleagues, end of next year. Oh no, I just heard now from 3 people who've told me in the past 3 weeks that it's probably going to be something that's probably going to last over 2 to 3, 4 years. So I always tell people now, like, just listen, really focus on your recruiter, make sure that there's a bench in play, and take care of your people. I mean, don't be, well, they're working for me. Like, you just can't have that attitude anymore. It is, they really have the say about where they want to work and when. And so you want to listen to them and just be like, what's going on? How can I help? What can we do to make this a win-win situation? And it's a lot of communication, Chala. And I think a lot of CEOs are thinking like, well, they're working for me. They have a job. They should be happy. Well, that's changed. And you have to make sure that, is our new model, is our model working 9 to 5, 5 days a week? Is it really working? And I think people are starting to really ask that question and say, maybe now it's only 4 days a week. Maybe it's only, I work, but I don't know what hours you're really working, but you get the projects done. And so I do see a lot more companies going into more of a project-based kind of a world, and getting people on board and saying, hey, if you can get this project done in 3 days, great. But this is what I'm going to pay you for this project. And so a lot of that's going to change. And it's not just me thinking that. I would say a lot of my colleagues are saying, is the 9 to 5, 5 day a week dead? And I have a feeling that it is. So just figuring out how to work and what works for the future.
Wow, I love it. Oh my God. Now, we need your pearls of wisdom around marketing, because this is a marketing show. So tell us if like how you get your clients now, and did that change because of the pandemic?
Yeah, so a lot of times, it was doing the decks. It was spending a lot of money and putting all these great decks together to take to your client. You need to have a lead behind, right? And after COVID, we don't do lead behinds. We still meet with people. We're starting to basically meet again. They don't even want to see that. And actually that sort of hurt us, because after our conversation and hearing more about what we could do for them, the whole conversation had changed. And so that deck was actually wrong compared to now what we were going to be doing. So all that time and effort and money that was spent putting it all together, we really should just focus more on, like, where it's been the past 2 years and where it's going the next 5 years, and really making sure that you get to know those people that you're meeting more than anything, because we spent a lot of money, on printing of all that stuff. And we really didn't need to do that. I don't know about Chala, but I rarely spend money on paper in my own office anymore, because it used to be, we're in the talent acquisition side, right? Everybody would always print a resume out all the time. I rarely, I use maybe one whole ream of a paper a year. And it's been incredible because people don't need it anymore.
I know it's a paperless society for sure. I mean, the legal profession, I would say, and maybe the medical is still, maybe more the legal is still trapped in that. Less and less so, but yeah, because I just sold a house, and my archaic old 90-year-old attorney wasn't able to do the electronic signing, but I understand that everybody else is doing. So he's saying it's too complex, but I think for sure the paperless is the way to go. So how do you get the actual meetings with the clients? I understand that you don't leave a presentation deck anymore, but how do you actually get in the room?
So it's funny, it goes back to marketing too, because I feel like you should spend the money on your website. You should spend the money on having that branding of who you are. Like, my backdrop has like the O'Connor group on it, and over there, and everything is branded that way. So we send things out and all too. But the idea is, it's like, spend the money for a really good website. Spend the money for that, because the first place a CEO is still looking is that website. And then what they're going to do is go on your LinkedIn. So make sure your social media is up to page. And you know what? The greatest thing I'll hear from people is saying, well, you guys are really active in the community. You're all over, Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all. And I'm very proud of my team for that. But it takes a lot of time to do all that. This doesn't just happen. And you also have to plan an entire year out for everything that they're they're doing. So it's very difficult to do that. But I also think what you want to do is just make sure that you work with a really good marketing team. I think marketing is probably super important. And I actually, believe it or not, I hired my marketing manager before. I don't even have a controller. I use an outsourced resource for that. So that tells me I find right now more importance. I mean, my numbers are number one importance by far. But for an employee in my team to really take us to the next level, I needed somebody here full time to really help us out and get visible on all these different avenues, because you have to figure out the demographics have changed. The Z's are now in the industry. You have the millennials, you have the Xers and all too, and you have to basically cater to all three areas. It's not the same. You can't just go one way and that's it. So much has changed. We spent a lot of money on marketing, but completely worth it. I would say that's the biggest way we get people, and then referrals. And then we send something out to a referral, and then we have other people. We do a lot of Zoom meetings and all too to really help them out with what's happening in the world. And the first place they look is the website. And I can't tell you how many times they'll say, "You have a very impressive website." And I said, "Thank you." They don't need to know how much money I spent on that, which was a lot, but it was worth it.
But they can tell. They can absolutely tell. And so are you doing a lot of outreach, or is it more passive social media?
You know, it hasn't been, and we've been very fortunate. We're a company that have a really good reputation in the Philadelphia marketplace. So a lot of it has been more of somebody helping and referring and referring and referring and referring. And the nice thing is that we use HubSpot now to basically maintain all of those connections. So we also do our own internal and external newsletter that comes out every 2 weeks. And we share like all the HR tips and recruiting tips. And then in the very bottom, we share about how to help other entrepreneurs in the area too. And people love that. They're like, I get a lot of newsletters, but I love yours. It's like, it's top 10 things. They're to the point, they're quick, they're easy, but I learn something every time. And that brings them right back into our website, and that brings them right into LinkedIn. So you got to make sure you're constantly thinking that, and every person you meet should be going into that HubSpot some way or another. And you want to make sure that happens, because you know what, they might not use you today, but in 3 years from now, because you're constantly in front of them, giving them great stuff, they're like, "Hey, we should talk."
Absolutely. Put them on your marketing train for sure. So tell us about the big marketing mistake. You kind of alluded to it, but your big naked marketing mistake was?
I had spent a ton of money on printing, and we had worked with somebody like, "This is who we are. This is what we're going." And a lot of times, when you're a first time entrepreneur, you think you need your brochures, you need your business cards, you need all these things, and you don't even know prices. You just know you think you need it. We had spent a lot of money, I'm going to say that, on all this printing. And it was really sad. In 6 months, a lot of that stuff had changed dramatically about what we do, what we offer, how we say things, everything else. Big time lesson learned.
Wow.
And I told myself, "Oh my God, I'm never doing that again." But it was a very costly, expensive lesson to learn. But I realized, listen, if you can do a PDF, constantly change the PDF and make sure that you're spending money on using somebody that really makes you look good, because that look has to go with everything that you're doing. Every contract that you're sending out, every follow-up that you're sending out, every like little touch base, everything has to be that consistency. And the more you can think that through, the more successful you're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of marketing collateral, I mean, I've had my company now for 9 years, and from day one, because I used to buy services at Pepsi, Pizza Hut, Frito-Lay, it would go right in the garbage. Nobody ever had the bandwidth for that. But
Yep.
what now, I mean, and since the 9 years, what I teach now is you need to invite people into a meeting that's going to be of value to them, or a presentation. And it could be recorded, it could be live, it could be a live stream, it could be a masterclass, or it could be just a one-on-one Zoom. Or it could be an executive roundtable with just 8 CEOs. And so that's the only marketing collateral you need, is the invitation to such a thing. And that's it. And that's what we've been doing.
And you know what? That is awesome. And I think if entrepreneurs are listening today, you have to use a service like that. So if Chala has that, feel free to reach out to her to use it too. Because guys, when we were doing COVID and you wanted to figure out how to help other people, we came up with the idea of doing these Zooms that we would do. Typically, it was almost like every 2 weeks. So number one, stay in touch with people. Number two, to remind them like, we're all going to get through this. And number three, just be a resource. And we didn't require them to pay any money. It was all free. We actually set up this thing called Ask HR Office Hours, and it was free service for 1 hour a week during a really crazy time period. We invited all of our clients, all of our friends, anybody we were connected to, saying, hey, we're offering free services an hour a week to say, if you need any information on this. So many people came to that.
That's
And they were like, oh my God, thank you so much. I survived because I listening to you guys. And I said, absolutely. What we need to really stick together here, because, karma works basically, what you give out, you do get back. And now all of a sudden this year, we've been bombarded with a lot of clients say, hey, you don't know me, but I was one of those people watching your stuff, and you really helped me in a bad time. And now I'm basically making money again. I want to use you. And it's just like, wow, thank you so much. But you get very humbled very quickly, because the whole idea was really just, we wanted to help. And I think a lot of clients either they put their head in the sand and they're just like, I don't know how to get out of this. Or the ones were like, listen, we're probably going to take a loss on this, but we got to do the right thing and help others right now. And I'm telling you, I think because of that, we've been so fortunate this year. We are so busy. And it's because I think we planted some seeds. We weren't even intentionally planting them, but we did. And we had a CEO care call that has been so successful, an HR director call, a recruiting director call. We were helping people that were getting unemployed, and we still have these things that we still do now. And people know us from that. So definitely do that. It takes time and effort, but completely worth it.
So congratulations on that. And, maybe you did it without really strategically thinking about it, but, and I'm sure at some level you did, but in marketing, visibility is money. Like, that's why you're here. That's why you took your time out to meet with a strange Canadian woman and do this, but also why you did that last year. And especially during a time of uncertainty. And it was a downtime where everybody was locked in, right? Everybody was like captive audience. So good for you. That is wonderful. What parting advice do you have about marketing?
You know what? Don't go cheap. Sorry, just don't. It'll pay its rewards in spades. You want to have that brand, make sure everything goes in it. I can't tell you how many times I talk to clients like, oh, I can't afford that. And I'm like, no, you can. Sometimes you got to spend money to make money. And I'm a big believer in that. And then when I see people using cheap, I can see it. And if you really want to have a high paying customer pay for you, you got to look it. You got to sound it. You got to feel it. And so unfortunately, you got to have that whole piece of it together. They don't need to know, behind my back screen looks like, it's actually a nice office here. But if it wasn't, nobody needs to know that. You know what I mean? But you got to have that presence. You got to have that visibility. So spend the money.
That is so good. As someone who charges a lot of money in my industry, who's definitely not the cheapest, I love that advice because I've always followed it. I wanted to learn from the people who were charging the top. And that's who I paid for. And therefore I learned from them how to do what I do and how to charge what I do. And that's what I tell people. If you want to be the most expensive in your industry, you don't want to be the cheapest person in your industry, then hire me because that's who I'm going to get for you. So
yeah,
great advice. That's probably, we've never had that advice. So, and we've had 60 shows. So congratulations. I love that. I love that advice. Awesome. So how can people reach you, Marcia?
Sure, no problem. Two different ways, Chala. One of them is just LinkedIn. Obviously, there's a Z in my name, so feel free to reach out to me on that. Or two, just email me, O'Connor, all O's, at tocgrp.com.
Very nice. Thanks for being a guest.
Oh my gosh, thanks, Chala, so much for helping, and good luck there in Toronto. And I'm sure have a happy holiday. Okay.